Welcome to Mindset Mavericks. Today, we're unlocking digital marketing success. And we're going to talk with Arias WebsterBerry, and that's around his adversity that he experienced growing up to his massive impact he's having across social media and creating multi-million-dollar ventures and empowering hundreds of other entrepreneurs. So thank you very much for being here. To start with, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day.
Hey, John, thank you for having me.
What I'd love to do is just get in your own words, really. I think I'd never be able to do it justice, but what is it that you're doing for people now?
Yeah, so I run a digital marketing firm called WebsterBerry Marketing. We specialize in social media management, social media advertising, and most people say, I have no idea what that means. So I always tell people we help businesses generate leads, and then we help them turn those leads into dollars. It's very complicated how we get there, but ultimately that's what we do. And then for budding entrepreneurs, those that are kind of getting started, we have Launch Ignition. It is a system designed to help entrepreneurs get their idea out of their head on paper and then out into the market. So we go through a coaching program, and we have an AI platform that asks questions to really figure out what it is that you do, what are all the features and benefits of your product or service, and then it turns it into a very simple to understand content that you can then hand to a customer or someone on your team to really give them a clear understanding of your process.
Fantastic. I think that's described it perfectly. And yeah, I'm not entirely sure myself. Like you say, I know what it is and it exists, but I wouldn't have a clue how to get the success there. What I'd like to do, I know you've had quite an interesting story. As I mentioned in the intro, you faced adversity growing up. Could you take us back to the beginning and explain how you've got to where you are now?
Yeah, I've been an entrepreneur as long as I can think. My first entrepreneurial venture, I was 10 or 11 years old. I was walking home from school, and at the time I was obsessed with dogs. And I remember walking home and I was just hearing all these dogs in backyards, as you walk by down the street, dogs here and they bark. Mm-hmm. I was thinking to myself, there's always these dogs barking, but I never see any of them. And one of the videos I watched said that dogs need to be walked daily. So I said, since I never see dogs, I wonder if people would pay me to walk their dog. So I got this idea. I grabbed my cousin. He's a couple years younger than me. And off we went. We started knocking on doors, asking people if we could walk their dog for $5. We take them around the block a couple times, bring them back. And I showed up at home with $20, $30, somewhere around there. And I showed this to my mom. I was so excited. And she said, "Where'd you get this money from?" I said, "I walked some dogs." She said, "Walk dogs? We don't have a dog. Whose dog did you walk?" I said, "Oh, our neighbors." I went around to our neighbors and I knocked on the door and I said I'd walk the dog for $5. And she was mortified. She freaked out and she was like, "You are absolutely not going to go around knocking on strangers' doors. You can get kidnapped." There's just so many issues. But, me as a kid, I'm not thinking. So that was my first entrepreneurial venture. It rose and fell in one day. It was profitable. But, I got it honestly. And I moved into, throwing some parties in high school, started throwing some parties in college. And around this time, MySpace was going out, Facebook was coming in. And a lot of business owners didn't really understand this social media thing and how it could be applied to business. So a local record label hired me to do social media for them. The owner also had a promotions company. So I started doing the marketing for the promotions company, and I really liked nightlife. I liked the marketing side of things. So we started with small events, did some smaller concerts, then we did some bigger concerts, and then that eventually we started doing festivals. So my largest event was for 17,000 people at the LA Sports Arena. We had Janelle Monáe, we had Ludacris, we had Common, Mixmaster Mike from the Beastie Boys. It was an amazing experience. And in that, I really got to put on my big boy pants and really learn marketing. I got to do, billboard advertising and radio and print and TV. It was a full marketing campaign. And that's really when I decided that was something that I really wanted to do. I ended up moving back to Texas and, eventually starting my own firm.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, some great experience in there. I think two things that stand out. That seems like quite a lot of confidence at a young age to want to start that venture of even going to knock on random
Sure.
people's doors. Where did that come from?
Yeah.
The confidence to
Uh,
be able to do that.
The confidence I definitely get from my mom. I give all the praise to her. She, something that she didn't feel she really got a lot of in her childhood. So it was of paramount importance for her to build my self-esteem, build my sense of self. So, my entire childhood, all of the crazy things that went on, one constant was her making sure that she instilled in me that I could do anything, I could be anything, that I was capable of way more than I could possibly understand at the moment. So she built a very, I don't want to say impervious, but a very strong self-image in me. And I think that that's what contributed to that. And I think that that's also carried me, throughout my life.
Yeah, and in terms of, you mentioned about your rise and how you started doing bigger and bigger events. Did you get any formal training in that marketing space, or was it all hands-on?
No, it was all hands on.
Yeah.
I recall distinctly when we did that larger event, I got a call from my investor who ended up, being the one funding it. And I remember I was working at this company, and it was like the most money that I'd ever made in a like 9 to 5 role. And I was happy. It was a nice building, it was a real career. And I remember thinking, I'm going to have to quit my job in order to do this thing, because this was like $1 million project. Right. And I also remember that there were guys that had been in this space for a very long time that were there. And I was like the new kid who was talking about social media and all these other things. And they're like, you don't know what you're talking about. We do this a certain way. And, I didn't have any formal training. I didn't have a degree in marketing or, a master's in marketing. But intuitively, I knew that you needed to put out more marketing more often, and digital was the way to go because it was cheaper and it was faster. And, I ended up getting a more formal training once I moved back to Dallas, and I went to work for a really large digital marketing firm. But intuitively, I always kind of knew that digital was going to be something of note. And I just leaned into that. And I guess it was just timing. I was old enough and young enough to
Yeah.
get into it. So,
Yeah. And I think sometimes that having a bit of naivety about what's in front of you can actually help. You don't see things as challenges. Is that something you found? It's just as you were naturally growing that you didn't know too much about it, so it was helping, or what was your experience like?
yeah, I would say, a lot of the early stuff, I remember when I struck out on my own to do some events, and, I just took my own money, and I didn't know anything about event planning and all that kind of stuff. I just had an idea, and I had some money and, some chutzpah. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm going to figure this out, right? Good, bad, and different. A lot of events did not go well. I lost money, but there was that, naivete, that fearless, jump off the out of the plane and grow my wings on the way down type of spirit. And, not everybody has it. I don't necessarily recommend everyone develop it,
Yeah.
because it comes with its own set of issues. But, you do, in order to do something different, in order to have something different, you do need to be willing to do things with a little lack for care of all the ways it could go wrong. Because, the best laid plans of mice and men, or as Mike Tyson said it, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. And business is very much like that. Hey, I've got my business plan. I've got my marketing plan. We've got this amount of money, and we're going to make this much this month, and on and on and on. Everything's going to go smoothly, and the charts are going to be up and to the right. And then you get in the first day, you blow all of your money, right? or you hire somebody and they're a terrible hire, So I think that has been a key to me being able to get here, because I sit in bed, or I'm in the shower, or I'm, running or something, and I get some harebrained idea and I'm like, yeah, we're going to do that. Right.
Yeah.
Whereas other people have been like, yeah, that'll never work. And they fail just for lack of trying.
I'm always intrigued to find out about what type of people that I'm speaking to are, because there's people who will plan for months, do everything meticulously, just try and plan for every eventuality, and the ones who'll be like, nope, need to take action, put one foot in front of the other, let's get going. And it sounds like you're a bit more of that person. You've got an idea, let's do it, let's test it, let's crack on.
Yeah, there's the difference between like the founder mindset and the kind of the CEO steady maintainer, right? That comes in and flattens things out and looks for, steady, slow, sustained growth, as opposed to the mantra of Silicon Valley, which is, move fast and break things.
Yeah.
I think the best entrepreneurs are those that have that move fast and break things early on, and then can transition into, slow or steady growth. Or you realize that that's just not your personality, and you find someone who can take that so that you can operate in your core strengths, which is, hey, I'm really good with coming up with ideas. I'm really good at innovating. I'm really good at moving things really quickly to get them in place. But I may not be the best at maintaining.
I imagine you've mentioned already, you come up with a lot of ideas, whether it's running and showering things. And I'd imagine that's ideal for the type of industry you're in, with digital marketing, content strategies, and it is a fast-paced environment. So is that really where your skills lie?
I think everybody thinks that they're unique, but me personally, my skills lie in that I'm pretty equally left and right brain. So new ideas, getting into the creative, right? Hey, we're going to do some graphics today. We're going to shoot some videos. We're going to edit some videos. We're going to build a website. I can get, elbow deep in that. And then I flip and I'm like, okay, break out the spreadsheets. Let's look at conversion rates. Let's do some projections. Let's code. We build apps and custom code websites and stuff like that. So I do all of those things as well. So I typically try to kind of set days for different things. So if today's a creative day, I try to stay on that creative side of my brain. And if I know we're going to dig deep into some coding, or I'm going to be staring at spreadsheets and reports all day, or I need to come up with some creative ways to track things reporting wise or analytic wise, I try to put that all in one day so I can kind of stay in that mindset and that side of my brain. So I think early on, a lot of my successes and failures came from that, hey, I got a new idea. I'm just going to jump off the cliff and see what happens, type of energy. And as I've grown and been able to, start multiple companies and maintain them, I've learned that just because I have a brand new idea and it could be $1 billion idea doesn't mean I need to run down that rabbit hole right now. I can put that in a book on my nightstand. And, when I've got some extra time or some bandwidth in my team or some extra money to throw at something, then, hey, pick up the book, scan through, find one of those, golden nuggets in there and run with it.
That's definitely one of the things that I struggle with as well, is having too many projects and having ideas and need to act on that, and then just taking on too much. Have you got any tips or strategies that you use for putting the brakes on and knowing which ones to run with and which ones to put a hold on?
I would probably, two things. One, you need to set very clear and defined goals as to what you're doing with this idea, right? Because everything needs to have a beginning, middle, and end. And when it comes to business, there are cycles. So, hey, actually, we're in the middle of retooling some of our packages on the agency side. And I'm starting with, hey, what are our goals? Like this is what the package is going to be, but what's the goal? How many do we plan to sell? What kind of results do we want to be able to get our customers? And then what are the cycles and when are we reporting? So if you have a clear understanding of what the goal is, that allows you to kind of stay heads down on that thing until you reach the goal, or until you come to the realization that you're never going to reach the goal because it's not actually possible, right? You need to decide, hey, this is way, way, way more time, energy, and effort than I have to give. I'm just going to have to go ahead and archive that project and just let that one go and move on to the next thing. The other part in what's kind of a transition from more of the startup side of things to where we are now is hiring strategically. So in some of the retooling that I'm talking about with the agency side, we started building things internally, working on something for us. That's typically the way we build our products and stuff. Hey, we have a problem. Let's figure out a solution for it. And then typically that solution, I'm like, wow, well, this would probably benefit our clients as well. So then now that we've figured out the solution, we've kind of figured out the metrics and what works and what doesn't. Now we need to turn around and figure out how we're going to make that a product, right? And in doing so, I always look at how am I going to hire to keep this going, in perpetuity. So I've figured out all the inputs, all the outputs, the levers and all the pulleys of this solution. How can I hire someone, train them to now sit in this seat and, handle all the inputs and outputs and pull all the levers and make sure that all the trains are running on time. So I think that those are the two things, focus on setting clear goals so if you've won or you lost with a project, and then figure out how to replace yourself in that thing. Because as a business owner, you cannot be everywhere at once. And actually offline, we talked about me having to have this conversation with a client. They've handed over all of their marketing to us. So one of the first projects was the website. And this particular founder built their original website. So he's like really scrutinizing what we're doing because he's used to being able to do it himself. So it's a little tough for him to be hands off and let us kind of do our thing. I was talking to someone else on his team and now we're taking the social media, and he used to do all the social media. So they're doing a great job, but because he's used to doing it, it's not good enough.
Yeah.
And he hasn't switched his mindset to realize that you need to set some metrics and some goals around these things for the people that you're handing this off to. But more importantly, you need to refocus your attention and your time. Now that you've freed that up, what's your role now? You're not building the website. You're not doing the social media. So with that 6 hours you would have spent doing that, what is now going to fill that vacuum? And that's tough for a lot of entrepreneurs. So it's the mindset, it's the pivoting. If I'm going into a project, I need a beginning, middle, end. If I'm going to hand something off to someone, I need to figure out what I'm going to do with my time. I need to figure out what they're going to do and what are the metrics around it.
Kind of staying along the same themes and strategies. If there are new business owners, or it could be long-established business owners who wanting to build their own digital media strategies, what are some of the key things that people should be considering?
I would probably say you always work backwards. So start with where you want to end up, and then, very granular in the approach, take a step back as to how you end up or how you get there. So if I want to get 1,000 more followers this month, right? Well, obviously I need to produce some things that are going to attract people to me. So first, the goal is 1,000 customers. Next thing is I need to produce things that make people want to follow me. Okay. How do I do that? I need to create some content that's going to get people engaged. Okay. What's engaging in my field? Like, what's the most engaging part of what I do, or what's something brand new that's in my industry that people are interested in or may not know, right? And then once you have that, well, okay, how can I make multiple pieces of content, right? So I would say the biggest thing is just working backwards. Start with the end in mind and work back to where you are now. That allows you to kind of have a general idea of what you're going to do, and you can develop the strategy and the tactics around that.
I think you touched on it then. It's one of the difficulties is consistently creating content that's going to resonate with people. Do you have tips on how to do that and how to be authentic and connect with people when it is such a diverse audience?
Yes. So I know quite a bit about this. I actually wrote a book on how to produce content consistently. It's actually sitting right here. It's called Content Canon. It's how you can create 1 month's worth of content in 1 day for your business. So the key is, one, being deliberate about creating content. The worst thing that you can do is say, all right, I need to make a post. I need to make a video. Hold on. I'm just going to take an hour or two. I'm going to bang out, blah, blah, blah. All right, here we go. And then start tomorrow. Hey, I need to make a post, right? That becomes very arduous. And in my opinion, it's a waste of time. You need to take the time to plan your content, right? Like, so, hey, I'm going to put out 10 pieces of content this month. So I'm going to put out 2 to 3 a week. So I'm going to take 2-3 hours on a Sunday or a Monday, and I'm going to create all these posts for this week. Or I'm going to take, 4 hours, 5 hours, and I'm going to do it for the month, right? Being deliberate, putting that in your calendar as an appointment, just like you would a meeting, or, going to pick up your kids, or, showing up for an important event, is big. Most people kind of haphazardly fall into content, which is why they do it inconsistently. The other thing that we talk about in the book is setting yourself up for the least path of resistance. Having a space that you record in, having things kind of set up, because if you have to go digging for all of your equipment, you have to set up the lighting, and you got to set up, the tripod and put your camera in there, and I need my mic. Where's that mic? Oh, did I charge the mic? Oh, it's not charged. Or where's that cord, right? You start searching for all these things. You end up wasting an hour or two rummaging around, just trying to get yourself to the space where you can hit record, or that you can, create something. You're wasting time. And your brain says, this is a lot. This is a lot of energy for very little reward. So, having those things set up, being deliberate, being intentional goes a long way to being consistent with content.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right with the barriers. Just as many barriers you can take away, the easier it is. Whether it is just, for example, having notes on your phone. As soon as you think of an idea, stick it in your phone, and just any little barriers like that can get in the way. Like I say, to not having the camera charged or having lighting away, and it's just easy to push it to the bottom of the pile if you're not ready to go.
Yeah.
And in terms
Indeed.
of trying to build your online presence, how important is it to use or inject your own self into your posts? How important is it to either have yourself as a brand or to do it from the perspective of a company? I think it's just difficult getting that balance. So what's your perspective?
I think in recent years, people have become just bombarded with messages, and nobody wants to talk to another faceless company. They just don't. There are hundreds of thousands of companies on this, millions actually, and almost in every industry, there's a couple 100,000 at least, right? So people want to know that they don't want to know what you know until they know that you care. And it's easier for them to come around to the idea that you truly care if they can identify with you. It's hard to identify with a brand. It can be done, but usually by very expensive and very skilled marketers and videographers and branding teams, which the average entrepreneur does not have money or resources for. So in lieu of trying to figure out extremely creative ways to make your logo speak to people, you can just speak to people.
Yeah.
You can be the person speaking to them, speaking as your brand. And in that same breath, you are giving them someone to identify with, whether that's, male to male, whether that's, a national thing, hey, we're from the same country, we're from the same part of town. I'm a dad, you're a mom, I'm a mom, you're a mom. I used to go to this school, you used to go to that school. I also used to have that problem, whatever it is, who you are is a brand, in good, bad, or indifferent, right? If you have a stutter and, you're trying to help people with speech impediments, well, instead of you trying to hide that, lean into it, right? If you are trying to sell, baby wipes, well, instead of you trying to be some faceless baby brand, who's the mom behind it that came up with it, right? Tell that story. People identify with it. And when they understand or they see that you understand because you've been there, well, then their shoulders relax, their guard and their antennas kind of go down, and they want to know what you have to say, and they're more likely to purchase from you. So I think that a personal brand is absolutely critical. It didn't used to be, but now it is. People want to know what's happening behind the brand. And more importantly, at least here in the States, we see all the time some warning that some company has put something in it. They've changed their formula. It's causing cancer. It's, unethically sourced. There's some kids in some small village that are being exploited. When you are the person there, well, then they know, hey, this isn't some random brand that's owned by some mega corporation that doesn't give two craps about me or my family. It's someone who's been there, who's done that, who's a normal person just like me, who had a problem. They figured out a way to solve it, and now they're putting it out on the market to help me solve the same problem. That goes a long way.
But yeah, no,
It
I
goes
love
a
that.
really long way.
I think I love the way you put it as well. It's just no one wants to know what you know until they know you care. And I think that's a great, a great expression. I'm exactly the same. So you do resonate with people, and when they share a bit of vulnerability, it's just buying into that person and showing that actually, we can have a relationship, whether it's personal or business. And I'm quite intrigued, we touched on it on the intro that you've had some hardships growing up. And how has your own story influenced your choices in social media and building your brand?
Honestly, in a negative way. I think as a result of all the things that have happened throughout my life, especially early on, I erred on the side of being more private, more guarded, because I knew that life was unpredictable and I didn't want to be a public figure that was susceptible to that scrutiny and that criticism when you fall short of, the landmark entrepreneurs that we see, and we're seeing that now. A lot of these billionaire, golden boys of various industries have fallen from grace. They have made themselves the focal point in all things, and it's a double-edged sword. It was the thing that helped them cut to the heart of their industry and own the space. And now that they've wrested their brands and their egos all mixed up into this thing, some of their less admirable proclivities have now come to light, and you've garnered all of this attention. And now that spotlight that you've garnered is rested solely on these negative parts of your personality and of your life. And that was something that I was at an early age, because of the things that I went through, was very aware that that was a possibility. So I think that I very much shied away from standing in front of my brands and courting attention. And that's to my detriment. I have many celebrity friends, whether they're, professional football players or basketball players or, recording artists and high powered CEOs that, are on Bloomberg and MSNBC. These are friends of mine, but I've never utilized that as a way to increase my own popularity. I've never publicized my relationships with these guys. When we're out and about, I'm the one that kind of stands over to the left.
Yeah.
When the cameras start flashing and people are saying, hey, can I get a picture? Or can I do an interview with you? So, it's a good and a bad thing. I think it's all about balance. I think you have to figure out how to utilize attention, utilize your personal brand to get ahead, while simultaneously keeping, parts of your life private, protecting your family, protecting those that you care about by not exploiting every part of your story and every part of your life.
Okay. Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. Just want to move on a little bit to SEO, really, and search engine optimization, which is obviously part of this whole strategy. So you've mentioned before that done is better than perfect. So how does that apply to SEO?
That's a good question.
Or does it at all?
So I have a somewhat jaded and odd view of SEO. Definitely jaded and odd view of SEO. I know that it works. However, it's a long-term strategy. So when you ask how is done better than perfect, I think you need to do it. You need to focus on it, but it does not need to be the focal point. There's this very real reason that we don't really offer that or focus on it in our agency. It's not something that I talk a lot about because SEO is an imperfect science. Now, there are companies that do it amazingly, but they are expensive. They're really expensive. These guys are charging $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $10,000 a month to do SEO. When you talk to every one of them, they say, hey, we're going to get you results, but I'm going to need 3 to 6 months for it to really take hold. So I definitely think that done is better than perfect in this. You need to make it a part of your strategy. If you're building a site, you're building a funnel. When you are creating content and publishing it, you need to take search engine optimization into consideration and make sure that you are crafting things to take advantage of SEO. However, it does not need to be the main strategy that you use. Get it done, include it, and move on, right? Come back to it next month, check, tweak some things, and move on. And, 6 months from now, a year from now, consistent working, you'll start to reap the benefits of that. But it's not something that you should be hanging your business's success on, because if the guy who's trying to pitch you hasn't told you it's not overnight success, it's definitely not a guaranteed, and you can waste a lot of time, energy, and money chasing that SEO ghost.
That's it. And try and just build domain authority. It like I say, it can take years. And is there any, just for SEO, before we move on to paid advertising, for example, is there any, not necessarily quick wins, but if there's one thing to focus on with SEO, is there anything that you would suggest?
Yeah, so authority sites is huge. So, there's things that you can do on-site SEO as far as keywords, labeling, putting in alternative text in your pictures, doing canonical links and getting into some tags in your site. All those things are advanced. Shimma markup on site, right? Those things have a huge impact when it comes to search engine optimization and ranking. But a better way, a quicker way to get some more listings and backlinks would be figuring out how to either guest post on high authority sites. If you don't know what a high authority site is, it's really not hard to find. You can do a simple Google search and say, what's my domain authority number, and there's 1,000 different sites that keep lists on all the different websites in the world. Find those websites that are for your particular industry, and then, go hat in hand to the guys who run that site and say, hey, I would love to, write an article, and then just make sure that your website is, your link is on that page somewhere, right? And that's a backlink. Another way is something that we offer clients, which is getting articles written about you on authority sites. So finding those high domain authority, you think the Forbes or, say MSNBC or, the New York Times, CEO magazine, all these different websites or magazines and publications. And no matter what your industry is, there's some kind of publication or authority site. If they have like an editorial element to their site, well, trying to get listed on those pages, having them write an article about you has a huge impact, not only on the SEO side, but also just the view of you in your prospect's mind. When they go search your name or search your company and, you come listed on one of these, sites that you're not in control of, it's digital property that's got a lot of credibility, and they say, oh, you were interviewed by Forbes? Oh, wow. It removes that doubt, right? And a lot of times I think when people think about search engine optimization, they kind of think of this ominous machine that's, keeping track of things, and they remove the human element in realizing that someone's going to search and they're going to read it. And that's kind of the whole point. So, not everything needs to be on a chart that can be read. If someone can see that an article is written about you on a high authority site, they're like, oh, wow, you must be someone. Maybe I should consider doing business with them.
I think that's a great insight you've given us. And I think probably the best way to ask the question is, rather than going through a number of different topics, for your clients, what are some of the best ways to build that brand, build your audience, and get yourself out there?
You mean, what do we do for our clients, or what am I doing for them?
So what kind of things are you doing for your clients to build their audience, and what's some of the most effective strategies to do it?
Yeah, so we start with a multi-pronged approach. So one of them is the authority, what we call the authority amplifier. So we have kind of a PR element within our company to reach out to these companies and pitch our clients to them so that they're getting these regularly. So, on average, we're getting our clients in like 4 to 6 publications a month. So if you parse that out, over the course of a year, you're talking about 60, 70, publications. You do that year over year over year. There's many pages on Google about you or your company. So that's one thing. That's what we like to call authority amplifier and seeding. Another thing is stuff like this, podcasts. Podcasts are starting to take over the world. It's one of the places that people are going first for information, to learn about you and your personality and your brand, and, really get to see and sample your expertise firsthand. So another thing that we do for clients is podcast marketing, helping them get featured on podcasts, like as a guest. We've helped clients start podcasts because that makes you a thought leader. And then, taking all of the content that's coming from these various things and trying to produce as many various formats of content as possible. So, text, blogs, tweets, static posts, images, clips, long form, short form, and distributing that across as many platforms as possible. So again, when anyone goes looking, you're absolutely not hard to find. And that goes a long way in, instilling confidence. Because if someone is not a good operator, they're not doing things in good faith, they're not good at what they do, it's very rare that they court the spotlight. They're usually obscure. They're hard to find. I'll send you my website a different day. It's not ready. yeah, our number is kind of glitchy sometimes, no, we don't really have any social media, all those different things. When you are present and easily found, if someone has a problem, they know that they can get to you easily.
With email marketing, for example, is that outdated now? Or is that something that should still
Absolutely
be?
not.
No.
Sorry. Joe. No. The money is in the list. Anyone that tells you that email marketing is over is not doing it right, and I would run. We make enormous amounts of money, both internally and for our clients through email marketing. Filters and emails are amazing. And if you are a brand that someone really enjoys, they identify with, are honestly interested in, they're going to open your emails. They're going to make sure that your email lands in their inbox and not in spam or the promotions folder, right? They're going to move that over. I believe that you need to do your part to make sure that you're creating things that makes them want to open. You are operating with integrity and not sending 50 emails a day. When someone says they want to opt out, you make it easy for them to opt out. Those things are what get you a list of people who are honestly interested. Those are the things that make people want to open. Those are the things that make people want to click. Those are the things that make people want to refer your business to other people because they've had such a great experience. So now email marketing is amazing. You can make enormous amounts of money if you are focusing on actually delivering value to people first and, creating emails that they actually want to open.
Now, I couldn't agree more. I think I was speaking to a friend of mine a couple of days ago, and I think their list is about 8,000 people for emails, and currently selling, it's a half-day seminar for about £800 a time. And just through the email list is booked in a day. So yeah, it's just a great, let's say, funnel. People already know, those people are interested. They like you. They like what you do. So it's definitely something to focus on. In terms of how things are evolving, how have you seen your industry changing over the last few years? What trends are you seeing at the moment?
I would say I'm seeing people simplifying things. You used to see very elaborate funnels. You used to see very elaborate sales pages. You used to see very elaborate emails, right? It was like the graphics were amazing. I think I'm seeing people kind of coming back down to basics, removing a lot of the fluff, and trying to get to market faster. You got an idea, you got a product, you have a promotion. Instead of spending 6 months trying to perfect it, do something good, quality, but get it out. Just do it. Get it out, get it into the market, and more importantly, test, right? So send something out with the idea that I'm going to send this out and see if it works. I'm going to look at the numbers. I'm going to be data driven. And if people aren't responding at a level that I predict, well, then I need to go back to the drawing board and figure out how to do better.
What changes or challenges are you seeing from AI?
Well, changes and trends, it's allowing people to do things way quicker, which is awesome. I also see a trend of a lot of people not using it, right? Because they're like, no, I've had a couple clients. No, I want to do it myself. And I get it. When it first came out, I was the same way. I'm like, no, I want to, it can't do. No, it's got to be me. It's got to be authentic. I need to do it. And eventually you realize that if you know your industry, if you're actually an expert in your field, then it's only going to amplify what it is that you do. If you are a complete novice, then you are going to utilize this to create things that you don't truly understand. And anyone in your industry that does is going to be able to see that clearly. There's been several times when I've used AI to do some calculations and I look at it and I'm like, that's not right. Hold on. Actually, yeah, all of this is wrong. right? And then if you're doing progressive models, well, then one bad number begets another. So that's a key. I'm seeing a lot of people who are either they're not using it because they don't want to aid the AI revolution and the rise of it, thinking that if they don't use it, it's, I don't know, going to go away, which is weird because it's not going anywhere. It's like saying the internet is going to, turn off. And then on the other side, we're seeing a lot of bad actors, those that, don't truly know or have the expertise that they say they do, but they're utilizing AI to supplement the areas where they're lacking.
And in terms of ad spending and AI in ads, is that something that you're utilizing to prepare and publish your ads?
Yeah, so we use, not as much with publishing. We are using AI to do a lot of analysis. So it's making very quick decisions for us in what ads to turn on, what copy or creative to go with. But we're not really using it fully. I know probably in the next year or two, it's going to be everywhere. And, every single ad platform and publisher is going to have AI that just, takes old, like a cache of videos and images and just strings it together and, produces 200 different variations, pushes it out and whittles it down. But right now, with our clients, we've got a little more hands-on approach. We have our AI, our ad managers and buyers that are responsible for making sure that these campaigns actually hit target. So, if they ask us to use some new AI tools, I'm like, show me the benefits. And, as long as it's not some 5-figure requirement, then I'm like, okay, yeah, get us a subscription. Let's see if it works. But, I do think that it's going to help us do things faster. I think it's going to help. Eventually, it's going to start creating creative that's up to spec. It's starting to get there. You're seeing some platforms that really produce some amazing creative, but for the most part, it's still in its fetal stages, especially for ads. But any copy, it's got that down. And then analysis of data it surpassed us 100-fold, right? So those are the things we're using it for. I suspect in the next 24 months or so, someone will have created something that's kind of a full service solution.
Yeah. In terms of all the things that you have learned, you've been in marketing for quite a long time now. What's the biggest lesson you've learned through your own journey with marketing?
Biggest lesson I've learned: consistency is everything. Consistency and branding. Branding is just letting people know what you stand for and what you sit down for. What does your brand represent? Who does it represent? What is the quality and caliber of what you produce? So making that clear, spending, significant amount of time consistently, for the entirety of your company's existence in driving home that brand and those messages is key. And, when it comes to putting messages out to sending, whether it's publishing social media or if you're buying some radio spots or whatever, it's all about consistency. I personally believe that a lot of small business owners fail in the way of advertising because they think it's a magic bullet that's going to, work instantly. Hey, I'm going to give Facebook $1,000 or $5,000 or $500. And it better produce, some money immediately. Otherwise, we're going to turn it off and I'm going to tell people it doesn't work. It's not an exact science. As much as people say it is, it's not. Every brand is different. Every product or service is different. Every geographical target is different, and all of these variables come together to build your advertising strategy. And you have to take the time to dial that in, to optimize it. I always tell our clients, if you don't plan on being with us for at least 90 days, I'd prefer you not start. we're going to get you some results, right, in the first 30 days, but it's not going to be optimal. It's going to take time for us to figure out what exact group responds the most, what creative gets the most reactions, what copy, resonates the most. So we need the space to figure out that unique combination. And once we figure it out, well, let's hit the gas. But you have to give yourself that time to figure it out. And also, if you're going to get into it, you need to go in with the mindset of figuring it out, knowing that the first video that you create or the first graphic that you create may fall flat. The buy now 50% off, that may not be the message that everyone wants to hear, because cheaper isn't always better. So, go in with the, I'm trying to figure this out. I'm trying to find a solution. I want this to be a permanent part of my marketing, a strategy and idea. And if you do that, you'll most likely find success.
Fantastic. I think that's a great tip to start coming towards the end. If anyone wants to find out a little bit more about yourself or about what you're doing with your brand, where's the best places to find you?
I am on Instagram. I'm on all platforms. So if you search Arias WebsterBerry, as you can see, my name on the screen. On Instagram, I'm Arias Web. My personal website, ariaswebsterberry.com. And if you are a aspiring entrepreneur, an existing entrepreneur that maybe isn't seeing the results in their business that they'd like, and you just haven't been able to figure that out, launchignition.ai is the website where we help entrepreneurs figure out their business, sequence it, and set it up to scale and grow.
Fantastic. I think they're just going to finish off with one very quick fire round, which is all around mindset questions. And just to get a little bit of an insight into yourself and what motivates you. So if there's one book that you've read what is the book that's had the biggest influence on your mindset? Or I say book, it could be a podcast or individual.
It's one that you and I probably have in common, which is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I read that book for the first time when I was either 15 or 16. I took it to school with me. I read it in the car between, events and engagements. I've probably read it 10 or 12 times since then. It had a profound impact on how I saw the world, what I knew was possible in business and in finance. And it has definitely shaped my worldview and turned me into the entrepreneur I am today.
Fantastic choice. And do you have a daily habit that gets you set up for having the right mindset for the day?
Yes, actually, is a book by Hal Elrod. And in that book, he details his daily ritual. And it's something called savers. So I read, I pray, I work out, I visualize. So I take my goals. I have all my goals written out, and I have like a vision board. So I look at each one of them and I visualize myself achieving those things, having those things, being those things. I also say affirmations, right? I say things in the present tense as to what I am and what I want to be. And then I also journal. I take some time to reflect and have a dialogue with myself about where I am and the things I'm struggling with, the things that I want to accomplish. So that's my daily ritual in the morning. And I do that in the wee hours, usually around like 5, 6 a.m. before everything else gets started, in order to really center me and set my compass for the day.
That's a great insight there. And I think the final one I'd like to ask, is there a lesson in life or business that you wish you'd learned sooner?
Yeah. It's okay to fail. And just because you fail doesn't mean you're a failure. I realized that a lot of my early failures prepared me for where I am today. And I would be a lot further along if I would have realized that I should fail faster. The most successful entrepreneurs that we've ever seen have either failed more often than we have, or they have failed more spectacularly than we have. And in my experience, I've always learned more from my failures than my wins, which is why I say that the lesson is to fail faster, fail bigger.
Yeah. With a follow-up question, because it felt like there was one in particular that you might have been thinking of when you were reflecting. Then, was there one particular failure that you were thinking of that came to mind?
I've had quite a few. It's one I've talked about before, but that concert, one of my biggest concerts, that did not hit its mark, and there was close to $1 million on the line, and couple of things that I learned there was to trust my gut, speak up louder when you know that you've got something of value to contribute that can change the game. And also, again, just because you fail doesn't mean that you're a failure. It took me a long time to recover from that loss because I had spent so much time and energy on that, and it didn't go the way that we wanted. It wasn't as big. I mean, it didn't, flop. We weren't sitting in a stadium with no one there, but we didn't hit the heights that we wanted. And it took me a couple years to try anything entrepreneurial again. And if I would have got started faster, I would have found the next thing quicker. And now I try a lot of things and they don't all work out.
Yeah.
But, something that may have taken me a couple years to recover from takes me a couple weeks, So, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. It's never as bad as you think it is. It's never as good as you think it is. Get up, dust yourself off, try again. Take that notebook out that we spoke of, find the next idea and put it out in the market.
Yeah, and no doubt, I know you've touched on it, but each failure, you're learning a lesson, you're gaining some wisdom. So it's just try not just to focus on those negative bits, but there's always something to gain from the failures, which everyone, like I say, has had. But no, I think that's a great lesson for all of us. Thank you very much for your time today. Really enjoyed the talk. And I will share the links in the show notes so anyone can reach you. Just click on the links below. Thanks.
Thanks, John.